Taj, I know we've been trying for a long time. Thank you, sir.
Well, Richmond Weaver, thank you, man. I appreciate it. I'm glad I can finally get here, man. So
No, it's the other way around. I'm very thankful that you're here. First and foremost, we got to talk about it. It's been rivalry weekend.
Yeah.
And your impressions of Clemson's 21-point victory this past weekend.
21
victory.
Points,
Let's talk about that.
21 points are a problem these days. I don't know. No, I kind of get where some of the people is coming from, but I also realize where the coaches are coming from and their take as well. Obviously, the Clemson support base, fan base felt like there was a lot of meat left on the bones. I look at it totally different, as if, Jake Bentley just played a terrific game. And the fact that Deebo Samuel, Sha Smith, Brian Edwards are all tremendous athletes, tremendous wide receivers, are going to do great things in the NFL. So I just take it for what it is. Knowing how that locker room operates, how that coaching staff works, I mean, it's something that is going to be correctable. When I'm talking about is about the defense and the amount of yards that Jake Bentley was able to put up. Because one of the things that I think that I was pretty excited about or optimistic about was the fact that the offense was able to go out there and do what they did. When you look at how Trevor Lawrence has been progressing this entire season, when you look at the way Travis Etienne has been running the ball, I mean, obviously they've had success this year. But in my mind, sometimes it came because the defense was allowing them to get the ball back, allowing them to get so many possessions, allowing them to play with short fields, So to know that they can go out there, sustain a 90-yard drive, do it multiple times, score if need be, that shows me a lot about where this offense has been and where it's going in the direction that they're under with Trevor Lawrence. So I was really impressed with that, mainly because at some point, man, you're going to have to get into a shootout. And it's just a matter of you being able to do that. And I think those guys on offense showed me that they could do it.
Yeah. And how hard is it for defenses to stop offenses? Because that's my point, too, is that it's very difficult, and especially now as the offenses have evolved so much.
Absolutely.
So from your standpoint.
Yeah. And I think, especially when you're talking about the way offenses are evolving, as you mentioned, we can go back to that Kansas City LA Rams game. All right. So here we got, prolific offenses, and we got just all-stars on defense on both sides of the field. We got, Marcus Peters playing quarterback over here. We got, Ron Parker playing safety for the other team. And there's some guys back and forth. And the amount of points and yardage that were able to be put up in that game just seemed like their defenses were non-existent. But it's not that more than it is these new defensive coordinators trying to figure out what these new offenses look like, in a sense. Being able to stretch you horizontally and vertically, that's a tough matchup, So we're starting to see some of the carryover from these collegiate-style offenses move into the NFL, hence the motions, the misdirections, and everything else of that nature. So I think we're starting to see a different time in football altogether. And, obviously, from Brent's standpoint, the game is now a matchup. All right, it's how can I put my best defender on their best offensive player, but if I don't necessarily have that, it's figuring out how to shift and move and change some of that up a little bit, So Clemson on defense this past week were in situations that they didn't necessarily want to be in, could afford to be in. They try to stop it. They try to bring extra layer from a linebacker standpoint to bring in blitz. But if you're going to do that, you got to be able to get to the quarterback. Jake was able to sit back, make throws.
And I think he got rid of the ball pretty fast
beat the blitz with the throw. So he did a tremendous job in that fact, man, because you can look the week prior against Duke, Daniel Jones couldn't get his feet set the entire game, and we saw how that turned out. So the fact that Jake was able to do that and then get the ball to the receivers obviously just showed me that, Jake's progressed too. So I'm just a fan of the game, man. As much as I'm a Clemson homer, I still look at it for what it is, and those guys just played a terrific game.
And from your perspective, when you mentioned like Daniel Jones wasn't able to get his feet set, so what's the most annoying thing as a quarterback when you're back there? Is it the pressure, or what drives you crazy?
A lot of that is it. I mean, it's getting into a rhythm of a game. Every quarterback is built different, and it comes to a sense where now these coaches and these coordinators have to figure out how to make their quarterback comfortable as early as possible, because the longer they're out of rhythm, the longer it's going to stay like that. For instance, when I played quarterback at Clemson, Chad Morris, Dabo Swinney will let me get implemented into the run game early. They knew I needed to be hit in order for me to settle down and to get in the rhythm. So first 3 plays of a game, I would do a quarterback power, quarterback draw.
So that was by design.
Absolutely.
They wanted you to go ahead and feel the hits out there, calm your
Because
nerves.
I'm not, some cases I was able to go out there first play, throw a bomb, but most of the time I'm throwing that damn thing in the stands over there. So it was just a matter of me getting in the rhythm and getting comfortable. And
has that been throughout your career? You always
been
liked
like
to
that. Yeah, because I
get hit a few times?
I mean, just the butterflies, the anxiety before every game, whether it was against, the Citadel or South Carolina State or it was against, Georgia. It really didn't matter to me because I loved the game so much and was so passionate about it that I just wanted to go out there and do great things. And with that came all of the other stuff.
So, but now I have to ask, though. You're comparing Citadel to Georgia game. But we know they're different. But from your standpoint, was there much difference? Did it really matter who the opponent was in terms of your nerves?
No, not necessarily, because it was all about me executing. So, I mean, that 5-yard out route against the Citadel is going to be that same 5-yard out route against Georgia. So if I'm not hitting on all cylinders, I feel some type of way about it. I mean, I've been playing the game since I was 7 years old, so you have no choice but to somewhat become a perfectionist. And the only way for me to go out there and feel that way was for me to get banged up a little bit.
And you mentioned starting to play when you were 7 years old. So let's rewind the clock back to little Tajh, 7 years old.
Tajh, yeah. Tajh didn't want to play football for real.
Okay, so how did you come about having this passion for football? How did you get involved at that early age?
I liked it, man. And it's funny, man, because a lot of the experiences that I had in football are starting to relate back to everything else now, business or the conversations that I have with some of the current quarterbacks in college football. Everything is kind of relative in a sense, and it all relates. But my dad was in the Navy, all right, so he was a pretty good player, but he only played in high school, so he never got a chance to play college. So all that energy that he would have exerted playing college ball got poured into me at 7 years old. So I started off playing left guard and D tackle. I guess
so not quarterback.
No, not at all. I didn't really play quarterback till 10. And a lot of that, man, when you talk about 7, 8, 9, 10, I mean, the coaches' kids are playing quarterbacks the whole bit, so you know how that goes.
I've seen that. That's right.
But I remember vividly, man, we were playing the Ingleside Broncos. At the time, I was playing for the Little Creek Gators. And quarterback threw an interception, and I'm chasing the ball down the field, and I get, my helmet almost knocked off. Get a crackback block. And at that point, I mean, I cried so much. But I didn't cry because I was hurt. I cried because I looked and see my mom over there looking all sad. So, it was like that pity cry. Yeah. So, it's funny now.
And so at that point, you were like, I'm not sure if football is for me.
Yeah, no, I wanted to quit, man. But the next year got a little bit better, and the next year a little bit better after that. And, interestingly enough, man, at 10 years old, I played on the first Virginia Beach Pop Warner football team. All right, so it was just new into the area. And the coaches that started this Pop Warner team had been like rec league all-star coaches. All right, so, I mean, they're recruiting all of these guys. And I want to say my dad saw an ad in the paper or something like that because obviously Facebook didn't exist. But my dad was like, you're going to go try out for this team. But the team was a junior midget team. Now, at 10, I mean, technically I could have played junior peewee as an older lighter. So in the Pop Warner sense, just to kind of give you an understanding, you got Mighty Mites, junior peewee, junior midget. Midget goes up to 16, junior midget goes up to 13. This whole team is 13.
Yeah, so you were young.
Yeah. So I didn't play much that season, but that's where a lot of my confidence was gained at. And on that same team just happened to be a couple of guys. Bubba Jenkins, who was the national champion wrestler at Arizona State, was currently a UFC fighter, and also Percy Harvin, who in Florida Gator lore is
of course
just a legend in that sense. So, yeah, it was pretty amazing experience. I mean, we had to ride Percy Harvin's coattail the entire season, but he led us to the national championship that year. Went down to Disney, Wild World of Sports. It was the first time I was exposed to a game that was televised. So it was a great experience.
Whole other world for you now, right?
Absolutely. So I can still remember the Hollywood Tower of Terror like it was yesterday.
I've been on that ride too, yes.
The only time I went to Disney, but that year, we used to do Oklahoma drills. And at this point in football, man, it might be outlawed. There's no telling, man. I don't know where the game is going. But, I got obviously being the youngest on the team, I got put into a lot of situations where I had to continue to try to prove myself to these guys. And
was there times you wanted to quit?
Well, yeah, because I just wasn't. I just
too?
had no respect, man. Like, because those guys didn't care, that I was on that team because I didn't contribute like that, right? So we're Oklahoma drill, and they throw Bubba Jenkins, who, like I said, is in the UFC right now, but he was a huge kid. I mean, horse collar, jacked up, had everything on, man, just a monster. And I'm sitting here with pony cleats on. This is, just as chubby cheek as all get out. And coach blows the whistle. I get up and I'll tackle him, right? And so now the Knicks pissed, The coaches are like, oh, my God, they're hyping it up to another level. Like, you let a 10-year-old tackle you. We can't believe this, blah, blah, blah. The Knicks like, do it again. Got back up. They blew the whistle. This time I flipped him, right? I'm going for the the thighs over here.
Yeah,
but we got him
low.
We got him on the ground.
Yes.
And, at this point, the team, rallies around me and everything else of that nature. But for the first time, I felt like I really belonged, So
was that a defining moment for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Especially because this game was a lot mental in the sense. It gave me that confidence going forward. You got to understand, man, like I was never the best player on any team that I played on, ever. Junior, little league, middle school, high school, ever. I was just always willing to put in the work that somebody else wasn't, man. So it was always me just, persisting and just grinding and hoping that it worked out for the best. Middle school was the same way, man. I played for the Lancetown Lancers. So on Thursday nights, it was Wednesdays, I would play my middle school game. And on Fridays, I would play in my rec game. So I played on two teams. Yeah. I played for the what was it, the AP Hurricanes or something like that? Yeah, with Coach Tim. And then on Fridays, I would play for Coach Wirtz, or on Wednesday, I would play with Coach Wirtz in the middle school. And, it's just totally different cultures over there. But, double dipping, man, and playing on two different teams at one time was something else, man.
And at this point, were you playing quarterback?
Yeah, I finally transitioned into quarterback. And interestingly enough, man, like I'd never really had any. These kids got all these gurus training them, at third grade up. My dad bought this book and this VHS tape. The book is like the fundamentals of quarterback, and it had a picture of Donovan McNabb up there. All right, this book is dated. The quarterback coaching VHS tape that he bought me was called Jeff Tricky's quarterback camp. All right, so. He's literally making me sit down. Like when I say my dad bred me for this, bro. He made me sit down and watch this film for 3 or 4 hours, and we're watching every fundamental of playing quarterback. He went out and made me this target. It was like a tarp, and I still got video of it. It's January 1st. It's freezing cold outside, and I'm throwing at this target, man. And once you put a certain amount of work in, that like becomes love. So it became a passion by default, essentially, because that's the environment that I was in. But it was all around me. I couldn't escape it. There was no, I'm going to be a coder. There was, I'm going to be a geologist or a sports psychologist or a biologist or any of that.
You're going to be an athlete.
Because where we were at, it was exactly that. At one point in middle school, I was there with E.J. Manuel. High school, Tyrod Taylor was my rival. I would go down to the gas station and see Bruce Smith, see Lawrence Taylor, see Ronald Currier, Alonzo Mourning. The Vicks are from there. Iverson's from there. Cam Chancellor's right down the street. D'Angelo Hall played at Deep Creek. So it's all here.
Yeah. It's amazing the talent in that whole
it's unbelievable.
Virginia Beach area.
I was the most unathletic out of all of them. Yeah.
I think some would probably argue with that, though.
All those guys are all-state basketball, so I was kind of the outsider.
So you were just football only? Did you play other sports?
I played other sports. Just, wasn't successful by any stretch. Track got ran down by a girl on the 400 meter. And no offense, obviously girls flying, but at the time, it's pretty embarrassing. Basketball, I played all the way into the 8th grade, and I didn't even try out for the 8th grade team. Coach was like, hey, man, you need to come out and play. Threw me a uniform, I jumped out there. And my dad gets to the game at halftime. I'm sitting on the bench. He's like, why aren't you playing? And I was like, I fouled out. And he left me at the gym. Legitimately. I had to catch a ride home. And
he was done with you.
Done with it.
You can't foul out of this game,
and I got home, and he was like, hey, look, man. He said, look, you're done. Turn your basketball stuff in tomorrow, man. Like, we We're just going full-time football here.
Full-time football.
Yeah.
So did quarterback come natural to you in terms of it just the ball had a just nice flight naturally for you, or did you really have to work at it?
I worked at it, man. Nothing was – there was no ability where it was just natural. Nothing. Running, throwing, none of that, man. I had a guy, Terry Mitchell, TJ Mitchell. He was a local high school quarterback who ended up signing to West Virginia, but I would work with him on the weekends at some point because he was the first person I saw that could make that football do anything he wanted. I mean, he would take it, flip it, throw it up. I mean, from me to Andy over here, the ball would drop like an elevator, man. And I was like, I want to be just like him, And interestingly enough, man, again, I keep saying interestingly enough, but it is interesting to me. I talked to him, man, a few weeks ago. And, to know that these guys have been following the journey, because obviously we lose touch at some point.
Of course.
You realize that this game means something to everybody. More Rich, obviously, we wouldn't be sitting here talking. But, yeah, man, high school was another story.
And at this point, you're going into high school.
Mm-hmm.
Had it become somewhat of a realistic goal that you were going to play in college?
No.
So it hadn't?
No, it hadn't yet.
When did that happen?
Well, kind of all right, so from 8th grade to 9th grade, I gained 40 pounds. All right. I went from 145 to 185.
That's a big jump.
It's a huge jump. I mean, I'm talking about protein powder, creatine. I'm literally like knocking it out because I'm like, I want to be able to be ready to play at high school. And the high school I was at was called Lansdowne. So Percy was on this team too. And this team hadn't lost a game in however long. So Chris Beatty was the head coach there at the time. Chris Beatty is now, I want to say he's the receivers coach at Maryland. So, he ended up taking that leap. But I played JV and I played a few snaps of varsity that year. And the reason that I remember the snaps I had on varsity is because I can't remember how many times I got told I was selfish. All right, so I'm going to give you a little.
When you mean selfish, yeah, so explain
all
that.
Right, so, I mean, we're up like 48 points, and they're like, boy, get in the game. And there's a senior running back, So literally all we're doing is like zone reads the whole way down the field. I mean, I'm just handing it. And this guy takes us like 60 yards down the field. I get down to the 4-yard line. I pull it, the score. I'm getting up and I'm celebrating. And the rest of the team looking at me like, "Are you serious, bro?"
You're supposed to hand it off to the guy who just
want to finish it. He was a senior.
That's right.
I never felt more disgusted in myself at that time. But hey, it's
a learning
memory
lesson
for me. Yeah, absolutely. So I think his name was Edwin or something like that. So if you ever come across this, I'm sorry, my dude.
There's the apology right there, right? We've got the official apology. Tajh stole your touchdown. That should have been yours.
Absolutely, man. So the high school coach actually was in the process of leaving. We didn't know that, though. Nobody knew that. Like, again, because I wanted to play quarterback at this high school because this was the staple in Virginia football. So during this process, my dad had, like I say, my dad's been like the orchestrator behind all of this. Essentially, he was Geppetto and I'm Pinocchio at the time. I got to put the work in, but he's making sure I'm taking care of all ends of it. So across the water, so there's a bridge that connects everything. Hampton, Newport News to Norfolk. There's a bridge that goes from Norfolk to Virginia. So everything is connected through the water, which is why they call it Hampton Road 757. It's in the water, the whole bit. And over here, that's where Tyrod Taylor was at. All right, so I wish we can draw out like this map.
Yeah, we need a map so we can show everything.
Like this is over here, and if you cross this sea over here, you're gonna catch this guy. But Tyrod was over there wreaking havoc at the time, and high school football over in Hampton, Newport News, is at a level I still have never seen. I mean, it's
because again of the talent there,
just the appreciation and the love that the people have for football. Lansdowne, the school that I was at. Real artsy, football was cool, and it won, but it was everything but that. It was brand new. And I had Newport News. It was some of the trenches, so all you got is football and the bands. So I don't know if you ever seen the HBCU band.
I have.
Norfolk State, Hampton, all of that. I mean, it hits at another level. So that was essentially that. I go. First time my dad's been going back and forth, he calls his coach named Bill D. and was like, "Hey, I got a son. He plays quarterback." Coach was like, "Oh yeah, he's freshman. Yeah, we don't care, man. Whatever. This is how Bill talks, man." And eventually my dad pulls me out of school from Lansdowne because at the time, once football season ends at Lansdowne, I mean, you transition into the next sport. The weight room really shuts down for the most part. They get ready for basketball season, track, and everything else. Over there, though, over Hampton Newport News, it's football
all year long.
So the day that they lose their playoff game, they're in the gym the next day. And this gym is like old school, bro, like old batting cage looking deal. The gym at the time, gymnasium floor, has holes in it because it wasn't hardwood. It was like mat. It's like a wrestling mat. So, I mean, I'm sitting here. My dad's taking me over here to visit with the coach and the players. And I got on some nice shoes, and they're looking at me. I'm like, damn, they about to steal my shoes over here, And, like, this school literally doesn't have windows in the front. There's no windows in this school. Every room is connected by dividers. So if somebody gets in a fight, they're knocking down the whole classroom, literally.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's, I mean, if I would have made up, $25 million, I would have gave it back and donated to the school, but we didn't make it that rich. So
that's right. One of these days, we're on our way though, right?
But I'll tell you, my dad was like, all right, look, they're having like a 707, a passing league. So essentially, for the people who don't know what that is, it's 707 football. It's football without tackles. So it's just me and the receivers versus the DBs and linebackers. And the first time I get out there, I throw the football. They're like, oh, this guy from the beach is all right, because they didn't have
Start
a real
proving your worth.
Yeah, and eventually make that transition over. Literally was the best decision that my dad and I could ever made, mainly because it put us in the position to do whatever we really wanted to from a recruiting standpoint. But the first year I start, man, I get, when I get nervous, my hands sweat, It's kind of it's always been like that. And this pointer finger is always frozen. I guess I got bad blood circulation or something like that. I don't know. But I'm getting out there for my first game, and I'm nervous. I'm playing against Maury. It's the same school that Cam Chancellor was at the time, so I played against Cam. And, I handed the ball off like 45 times, I literally threw the ball like twice, man. So we won the game. And
just manage the game. That's all they wanted you to do.
And that whole entire season, I threw the ball. I mean, I had like 14, 15 touchdowns, but really I was just kind of making sure that everything was on track. I ran the ball. I was a pretty physical dude because at the time, I mean, even in 10th grade, I was bench pressing 225, 16, 17 times. So, I mean, I could throw it up.
Yeah, you were throwing that up. That's no joke.
Yeah.
So, at that age.
Yeah. Who's lifting? Yeah, my dad used to have us in there lifting, man. So protein, creatine,
Exactly. Hey, that'll do it. Can you do that right now?
Yeah. I could do 225 about. Well, I just threw up last night, 405. Yeah.
How many times?
Twice.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, you still got it,
my
man.
My eyes almost popped out. But it was there. Now we got to get back onto the cardio because the lifting just ain't cutting it. Got to start running more. But we go that year and. Eventually I had to start trying to play a bigger role in that season. We get down to the playoffs and everything else of that nature. And we lost to Tyrod Taylor in the regular season. And, I mean, it was the most embarrassing deal, bro. I got hit, flew underneath kind of the bleachers where the players sat at the whole bit. It's a guy named Jacoby Finner, an unbelievable player. But fortunately for us, Tyrod and the Hampton Crabbers lost in the first round of the playoffs. So we didn't have to see him again. We ended up winning the state championship that year. And it was an amazing experience. I mean, I still look at the interviews that I had, and I had these braces in, and my hair was, snappy and everything. It was rough. I looked rough in the video. I was like, geez.
Did you have a beard back then?
No, there was nothing.
Nothing?
I didn't have anything when I came to Clemson. So I don't know,
So you're baby face back then,
man,
huh? Okay.
80,000 fans are. Get you I got a couple gray hairs now.
I imagine you do.
But all right, so it doesn't seem like I did much, right, during that time period. I mean, obviously I was working towards football, but I wasn't at a high level yet. All right. So since we didn't throw the football a lot, my dad was making sure that in the off season I was going to camps and things of that nature. This is the way we did it.
And again, you still didn't have any type of quarterback guru coach or anything. You're just going to these camps.
At this point, I'm just we're going to the Nike camps and everything else of that nature, Spark. So what my dad would do is he would do his research, and he'll find which top quarterback was going to which location. All right, so he was like, all right, who's the top quarterback in North Carolina? What camp's he going to? He's going to Penn State. All right, that's where we're going. So I got my first offer after my sophomore year. First offer was Boston College. Yeah.
So you'd hardly been throwing the ball.
Hardly been throwing the ball. So at that point, it was like, all right, this is.
But they saw you at these camps.
Yeah, and I mean, I was ripping it, but the coach at the time just didn't let me throw the football. That just wasn't his style of play. Literally, it's Alabama all over again. And my junior and senior year of high school, it's exactly what Saban doesn't like right now. It was all on my shoulders to a point, because we got to throw the football to win games. And the moment that becomes, what your style of play is, if you're a run-first guy, you hate that, So Boston College was my first offer. After that, man, I started hitting the circuit, making some noise a little bit. And, my junior year, I threw for 2,700 yards, 30 touchdowns, 2-3 interceptions or something like that. We lose in the state semis. At this point, I've become, one of the top quarterbacks in college football.
Yeah, you're known now.
Yeah. I got all these offers coming in and things of that nature. My coach is like, hey, man, we don't give a damn. We just want to win games, And
now, who did you grow up as a fan? What college teams?
I never really had one. I grew up with a Georgia Bulldog fan.
You did?
Yeah, because I was born in Albany, Georgia. Albany.
Albany, that's right.
So my dad was a Bulldog fan. I got pictures of me in onesies that are Bulldog written, and obviously wanted to offer from those guys, but in that same class that I came out of, Zach Mettenberger and Aaron Murray were in that same class, so couldn't take 3 Elite 11 quarterbacks at one time.
It seems like some schools will now.
They will now, yeah, because you don't know who's leaving and who's staying these days. But yeah, that whole deal, man, was pretty special in itself. Go down to the Elite 11. Going into my senior year, and that was a cool experience as a whole because in that class it was Matt Barkley, it was Geno Smith, it was A.J. McCarron, it was Mettenberger, it was Murray, Brent Renner, who went to UNC, pretty much set all their records, Tom Savage.
It's a who's class of quarterbacks.
Absolutely, and then so they have camp counselors every year, so current college quarterbacks who are transitioning into the NFL, and the camp counselor were Chase Daniels, Curtis Painter, who played at Purdue, Mark Sanchez, Colt McCoy, and Matt Stafford.
Wow.
And Chase Daniels, he had 3 12-packs, just knocking them back. Yeah. So to go out there and see
that was the life, man.
That was, man. I think Mark Sanchez was dating Eva Longoria at the time or something like that, but living a life at USC, But that was the first time I saw, I had a strong arm, At least that's what I thought. Then I saw Matt Stafford.
Did you see a difference?
Oh, my gosh, bro. Matt Stafford could kill somebody with a football. And Mettenberger was the same way. Mettenberger was kind of a different kind of guy. We'll be in the middle of a camp, and he's like, hey, watch this slant right here. I'm about to break this receiver's fingers. And I'm like, why, bro? He got to catch the football. Throw a catchable football. That's always been my whole deal there. So Mettenberger was literally trying to take people's fingers off, man. So
that doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense,
So how far can you throw a football?
At my peak, 73 yards or so.
Gosh.
Yeah. So, yeah, football, man. Again, it was all a grind at that point. Never went to parties in high school. So the only time I actually.
So you didn't get in trouble in high school. You were always the good
because
kid.
it was so much going around, man. Half of the team that I was on was in gangs. In my senior year, we had about 5-6 classmates get murdered. It was just, it was a rough deal, bro. So. I kind of stayed to myself for the most part. Went out there and did what I needed to do on the football field, stayed at the house, and just really try to perfect my craft every day, man. So every day I would do something. I would go, and if I didn't throw the football, I would literally sit there and go through the motion. I was always rolling something out, lifting weights the whole bit. So everything that I had was dedicated towards that. So when I went on my college visits, this was the first time I actually went out and seen, what parties looked like. So that's it's a rude awakening.
That was eye-opening for you, right?
Yeah, Tennessee, Eric Berry was my host. Ohio State, Terrell Pryor, Mike Brewster was my host. Oregon, there was a kid, Darren Thomas, who ended up starting over there. West Virginia, it was Pat White and Jared Brown. And then at Clemson, I had Brandon May. So,
Brandon May.
So, yeah, I'm getting all these big dogs, and then I get B. May.
Yes.
But Clemson, this relationship was never really I mean, obviously, I guess it was supposed to be here, but it was really never supposed to happen this way. I never got recruited by Bowden's regime. My entire recruiting process.
None.
I mean, I had 60-something offers coming out of high school, and not one from Clemson. All right, so the only reason I even got to Clemson was through the guys that I met at the Army All-American game. Hell, the reason I got to the Army All-American game is because my dad literally called those guys for like 4 straight months. And then I was the last addition to the game.
And then you're MVP.
MVP. They drove 18 hours, man, to come see it. So it was special, man, because, I mean, they literally gave me everything they had to ensure that I was successful in all of my endeavors. So, you know, you can never thank them enough from that. But, yeah, I meet Rod McDowell. I met Malachi Goodman. And I met Bryce McNeil. And at the time, man, I'm so cool with all of my Ohio State buddies. Dorian Bell, Jamie, who played, you know, safety over there, Corey Brown, all of these guys. So I feel like I'm a Buckeye. Hell, the reason I even wore 10 was because of Troy Smith, you know. So it was tough for me to say no to those guys, man, especially when you go to the visit. You go to Woody Hayes Center. You got Tressel sitting there talking to me. He got the Heisman Trophy sitting next to the 10 jersey. He's like, hey, you know, Tajh, we were going to retire this number, but if you come here, you can have it. I mean, that's a pretty tough deal, you know.
Of course.
Absolutely.
Did you commit to them at all?
I told him I was coming, yeah. I mean, Eddie George walking around, you know, so, you know, I'm having a great time with Terrell Pryor. You know, TP's like, hey, what do you think? And I was like, I'm coming, bro.
Yeah, I'm in. That's right.
You know, and Danny Pearman knew my high school coach from when he used to coach at Virginia Tech. There was a crowd of guys there, so Danny was the end, because at the time I was done with my recruiting. All right, I had one visit left, and that visit was either going to be Michigan or Kansas State. I mean, Bill Snyder sounded like he was going to fall asleep over the phone. And he was an older gentleman. And then Michigan, just because I always wanted to see what that looked like. Danny Pearman called my coach and was like, look, you know, we got a new guy here, Dabo Swinney, you know. He's a great dude, man. He was like, I know Tajh is, you know, kind of figuring this thing out, but, you know, if he wants to, you know, let Coach Swinney come to the house, you know. And my coach is like, all right, Tajh, look, man, I told you we were done with the recruiting, because he was sick of it too. You know, I was his highest profile player that ever played for him, so he was annoyed by it. He was from Pennsylvania too, so.
Were you sick of it? Were you tired of it?
Yeah, I really was, man. I mean, because I had already committed to West Virginia, they committed, went to Tennessee. Kiffin told me pretty much I wasn't good enough. And then I had all these roundabouts. And it could have been, you know, I always give a story about why I committed to Clemson, but it could have just been they were the last school that I sat down with. So
by default, right?
By default, yeah.
you were done and like, all right, let's just end this.
But now Swinney came in, man, and eventually.
Yeah. So what was his message to you? Why'd you gravitate towards?
Man,
Coach
because
Swinney?
he was sincere, he was genuine, and he just told me, he was like, look, man, I'm not, you know, Jim Tressel, I'm not Mike Bellotti, Chip Kelly, I'm none of that. You know, I can't tell you what I've done because I haven't. I don't have any accolades, nothing. He was like, but, you know, you can come here and you'll be my first quarterback at my first recruiting class, and I think we could do something special together. So I'm sitting there, and I'm like, man, you know, I got Ohio State over here, and I got Oregon sitting over here. Chip Kelly has literally been flying into Virginia every other week for the entire season. I mean, one time he came in, the whole school got locked down. You know? True story, man. And it was just something about Coach Swinney, man. And he told us his whole backstory, where he came from. You know, his mom lived with him at college, his dad battling alcoholism, you know, drugs, you know, the whole bit. I think he was in real estate for a while or something like that. All of this, man. And yeah, he's sitting in the living room. So, I mean, you look at, I mean, hindsight is 20/20, but it's like, all right, if a guy can go through all that and still be standing, those are the people you want to be around. That's the guy, because he's been through everything that life could deal him, and he's rose above it all. But more importantly, selling me, he had to sell my mom, you know. My mom, you know, he left. My mom was like, oh, my God, you're going to play for him. And I had to create myself on a video game to even see what I would look like in that uniform, because orange and purple is such a weird combination, man.
That's right.
And, man, this was like 2 weeks before signing day. So really out of the blue, man.
Yeah, I mean, this was last minute.
This was last minute, yeah. And I had tore my ACL. All right, so I missed the whole part where I tore my ACL.
Yes, that's right.
I tore my ACL the third week of the regular season in high school. All right, we was playing Warwick, and I tried to throw. Well, I was about to throw a slant. Play broke down. I scrambled, tear it, pop, the whole bit. I knew something was wrong, obviously, because I got up and my knee just kept snapping back, right? It was nothing holding my knee in place. I get back to the sideline, and, the doc does his whole knee shaking test, figuring out if it had any stability or anything. And I told you my coach was like just a kind of a stickler kind of guy. He's from Pennsylvania. So, he just thought differently. And I heard the doc tell him something like, "Hey, man, I think it's torn." And he looks back at me, and I'm crying over here with my visor on. He was like, "Hey, man, tape it up real quick, So I literally got like duct tape, taped my knee in place. He threw me back out there in the field, and I'm running down the field, and my knee is popping out of place, bro. Like, just disgusting, man. And obviously I knew something was wrong at that point. I go get an MRI. And obviously the results came back that I had a torn ACL. And at that point, I figured it was over. So we had put in a lot of time because my junior season, we lost in the state semis. All right. And, we were like, man, we want to win a state championship. So that whole offseason was dedicated to that. Every day, bro. Like, there was no McDonald's.
Everybody was committed.
Everybody's committed to it. That's what we did. And, obviously I didn't want to jeopardize that. So I asked the doctor, I was like, "Hey, can I play with it?" He's like, "Well, you can't tear it anymore. So you could." He's like, "But it's going to hurt, man." So I sat out 2 weeks, and I remember riding up to the practice with my mom, looking out the window, literally crying because I wanted to be out there with my guys, man. Played 13 weeks with it.
And you did it, and you guys end up winning.
We won a state championship, yeah. So got carted off the field a few times, But could I go back again and do it? Probably not, man. I just, I wouldn't. I'm like, geez, for what, But
yeah, do you look back and think, what in the hell was I doing?
So, man, it's 3 years started, man. 43-2, 2 state championships. We finished my senior year, the number 2 team in the country. So it's a pretty special deal. We had the opportunity to play Burns, but my coach wasn't for that TV stuff. So he was like, "Hell no, we're not playing on TV. We're gonna play our schedule here." So.
What a small world. Can you imagine if that would have happened?
Unbelievable.
Right?
So, yeah, pretty special deal, man, there. But, Coach Sweeney was just – I remember the first time I got here, man, and it was my first time away from my parents, my family, all of that. Everything was foreign to me. And, we go through the conversation that most freshmen do. I'm sitting there. My roommates are Bryce McNeil, Rob McDowell, Jonathan Meeks. And, first year we all red shirt, and we're sitting there talking, and we're all talking about where we're going to transfer to and everything else,
So where were you
we're
going?
Like, bro, we're getting out of here. And I don't know where I said I was going, man. It was something crazy. And
so why were you thinking that you were going to transfer?
I don't know. First off, I was still battling through trying to recover on my ACL. But I wanted to play. That's what I've always done. And I was like, man, we got Willie Corn here. We got Cal Parker. Cal Parker was, first off, just a terrific athlete altogether. Nobody else played baseball. And he had that whole deal where everybody thought he was leaving, because he got drafted, and he ended up coming back. And I remember reading a quote from Coach Sweeney, like, "I ran around the neighborhood in my boxers." And I was like, well, if you feel that strongly about him, like, he doesn't necessarily care about me.
Yeah, what about me right here?
Like, I'm out of here, bro. And Coach Sweeney came and sat down with me. He said, "Look, Taj," he said, "I'm going to just shoot you straight." He was like, "I never put you on that field until you're ready to go out there and play."
Did you appreciate that?
Yeah, absolutely. Hindsight, yeah, for sure. And
but was that hard for you to hear at that time?
Yeah, absolutely, because you just never knew what it was going to be. Because you spend your life, your whole entirety, doing that, man, playing ball, and all you want to do is get out there and sling the football, man, and get in the end zone. And yeah.
So, what was your most memorable time out there in a Clemson uniform?
Man, I don't know. Probably my first game I played in was Presbyterian College. First touchdown to Hopkins. But it was one play where a D tackle did a stunt, and he bailed, and I was throwing like a drag route, throw interception. I go over to tackle him, and it was a big hit, but my helmet got knocked off as well as my skull cap, So, so that one, there was a few of them, obviously. 2011, I remember playing Wake Forest, rolling to the sideline, scrambling out of the pocket before sitting there with inches to spare, hit him in the back of the end zone, catch it. And that was the first ACC division title Clemson has won in like 20 years. So it was a pretty special deal for all of us involved because we knew what it looked like before. I mean, we were a part of the 6 and 7 team. We were a part of the Kentucky loss the year before. So, or I guess we won that game. I don't know, something like that. But it wasn't pretty at the time,
No, it wasn't.
And
yeah, I mean, your teams started the whole trend. At least that's what I contend with. You win the ACC championship, and that's what got a lot of Clemson fans all in.
Yeah, and a lot of
after
it was
that first ACC
just
championship.
Culture building, man. I mean, the positive part for Coach Sweeney at the time was that our team was so young that he could pretty much take the team and form it. Because what happens, man, in any organization, business or whatever, if you have enough guys that aren't used to the way that the new hierarchy is structured, they're not buying into that. And if those guys are in authoritative positions, leadership roles, it starts to trickle down to the rest of the team. So Coach Sweeney was able, unfortunately enough, to cut it off at the head so that it wouldn't, pretty much infiltrate the rest of the younger players. So after that 6 and 7 season, we lost to South Florida. Coach Sweeney was like, "Look, we got a decision to make. You guys in this room, we could do something special, or we could just do what we've been doing here." And I mean that offseason, obviously, Joey Basson put us through the ringer. I never worked so hard in my life, man. And we were going through all of the coaching changes. Billy Napier was gone. A couple other guys were gone, and I sat in on that whole process when Coach Sweeney was looking at who was going to be the offensive coordinator.
So what impressed you about Chad Morris then?
Just an energy level. I mean, because I was there when Ralph Regent came in the whole bit, and I knew Ralph because obviously Maryland recruited me as well. But Ralph was content in what he had been doing, and then you got Chad, who was just a wild card out of all the groups. So you got all of these coaches that are like in the same category, just common, And then Coach Sweeney goes and grabs the guy who's the most out of the box. Something that Coach Sweeney would do.
But that's
right?
Coach Sweeney,
that's Coach
right?
Sweeney in the whole. So, Chad had coached at Tulsa for 1 year. Before that, he was in high school, man. So, Chad was like,
there's a lot of people that question.
Oh my gosh, bro! Absolutely.
Coach Sweeney when he made that hire.
I mean, the offense sucked the entire spring, man, when Chad first got there. And
was it a hard system to learn for you
at the time? Because everything that I had did in high school was under center. I didn't really play in the shotgun. So I'm not like a natural spread offense quarterback, So I had to learn that, man. So I'm sitting here trying to take on the terminology that Chad is giving me, the options and everything else of that nature. And we had a rough spring, and Chad sat me down at the end of spring practice and said, "Look, man," he was like, "either you're gonna get it done, or I'm gonna find somebody else that will." There was only 3 quarterbacks on the team at the time. It was me, it was Cole Stout, Donnie McElveen, Taylor Ogle. So he would have had to go outside of the program. So it wouldn't have happened anyways. It wouldn't have happened. But it was a good story, because that offseason, man, I mean, I grinded, bro.
He basically just reinforced that.
Yeah,
all right, it's time to put some work in.
Right. So, we go out and, I mean, we didn't really know what we were getting ourselves into, man. And me and Chad still talking. I hate it for him in the situation that he's in Arkansas right now. But obviously, in my eyes, he might not see it the same way. But I know where that program is going to go because I know who he is and what he means to the players around him. He cares about them. And, we played Troy in the season opener. Or Wofford. It was one of the two. Troy and Wofford were the first 2 games. And we're getting booed at halftime in both of those games. One, we're losing to Troy at half. The second, we were tied with Wofford at the half. So it was kind of one of those deals where it's like, all right, what is this team doing, man? And then we had a monster stretch right after that. Auburn, who had just coming off the undefeated streak, so off of the championship.
Yes.
Florida State, Virginia Tech. So Auburn, Florida State, Virginia Tech, and they're all 3-year ranked at the time. So it's the gauntlet for us. And we're like, man, I don't know what we're going to do because we struggled those first 2 games. And we get in the Auburn game, start grabbing some momentum. It exploded. I mean, I remember hitting Sammy on a little, I guess it was like an inside hook route. Boom, boom, split a defender, take it 60 yards. And we were like, yeah, that's that guy right there. And then, Florida State was the same way. It was, I've seen the Noles my entire life, man, on TV. So that was a pretty big one for us. And then Virginia Tech was cool because Coach made me a captain. So going back to the home state.
Yes.
It's October 1, 2011. It's 40 degrees. It's raining sideways. I can't feel my fingers. And we found a way to squeeze that one out. So we won like 20-3, so I don't think we squeezed it out.
No, you didn't squeeze it out. I remember that game.
Yeah, but we just went on a run, man.
Yeah, you did.
And the crazy part about it is like we knew what we were doing, but we didn't know how we were doing it. So when we took a loss, we took a loss. And when we won, we won. So we went 8-0, obviously starting that season off. And then we went on like a 3-game stretch where we didn't know who we were, man. We lost one game. We didn't know how to handle the loss. That one loss beat us twice, and then it became something else. So we finished the season, ACC championship game strong. Beat Virginia Tech again. Go down to Miami for the Orange Bowl, and
we probably won't need to talk about that one,
West
right?
Virginia's still scoring. Yeah. Well, I'm sitting there, man, and we come out hot in that West Virginia Clemson game, and it was a pretty special deal. I mean, first BCS Bowl Clemson has played in 20 years too, and it's all of this emotion, fanfare, everything, festivities, just unbelievable. And it became what it was, the Orange Bowl beatdown, 70-33. Yeah. And I remember sitting in that locker room at halftime. It's 49-20. It's funny enough, like 3 weeks ago, I go and I'm like, I'm trying to figure out how they got 49 points in the first half. And they scored 21 points in like a span of 3 minutes or something like that at the end of the half. And I remember Rashard Hall getting up. He's like, hey, fellas, get your head up. We're going to win this game. And me and Andre Ellerton look at each other and like, who going to win this game? They get the ball back to start the third quarter. 56-20 in a matter of seconds, bro. So at that point, half of the team is playing. The guys who are seniors are on the way out. They take themselves out of the game literally. And, that was demoralizing.
That was one of those
loss.
games where those guys, they just checked out.
But, for me, most people talk about LSU being the turning point. I think it was really that game because that was a segue to being like, all right, well, just because you got there don't mean you belong there. And it was everything else after that.
That was the wake-up call?
Mm-hmm. So, we died another year with Batson in that weight room. So. And,
obviously the LSU game is, I contend that the last-second touchdown catch for a national championship doesn't even happen if there's not a 4th and 16 completion from you to Nuke Hopkins.
And I'll agree with that.
Yeah. So how did that play happen?
Well, I'll tell you, it's not as glorious as Deshaun's, hey, fellas, let's go be great. Yeah, it was none of that. It was, we get to the sideline and Chad Morris and Coach Fournier looking at us and like, what do you think? We're like, I don't know. What you think? Brandon Ford walks up and is like, hey, Coach, we ran a play earlier. The play was unsuccessful. So I'm like, well, it didn't work the first time. And before it was like, look, Coach, they got, there's going to be something there. So Coach was like, what do you guys think? And I was like, well, let's do it. Because then at the point, man, like we were so confident as a program, as offense, because, that entire couple last off seasons, nobody went on spring break. Nuke, Sammy, Brandon Ford, Sharon Peak, all of us. We sat there, and I could still throw certain routes to those guys with my eyes closed right now. That's how many times we did it. So, Nuke has always been one of those guys, though, and what was special about him, more so than anybody, was he was able to adjust his routes accordingly. So you would literally have the route drawn up on paper, and he'd be like, well, if the flat defender's playing this way, I'm gonna come and find a window here. Or if the safety bails out and it's supposed to be aimed directly towards him, flatten it like a dig. So he was able to play the game within the game because he did play quarterback growing up. So it was pretty special knowing that he saw the same things that I saw on the field. So yeah, he was the only person I was going to on that catch, on that play. And I wouldn't change it for the world because.
So when you threw it though, did you see him?
Yeah, I knew where he was going to be.
Okay.
Yeah, so I threw it to a spot at that point. Obviously, Slid made the catch. When you look back on it, for us, it really was the next play. We didn't think that play was going to be as big as it was. Obviously, it was a huge turning point. But he got a tattoo right here. I got a tattoo right here, so it's pretty special.
It's very special.
But, Humphreys comes back to us after the game. He's like, hey, Newt, that was a great catch. Tajh, great ball. He was like, hey, but I was wide open over there. I went back and watched
So
the
now
film.
Humphreys is a diva wide receiver, right?
So, I go back and watch it. Humphrey would have walked in the end zone, literally.
Oh.
But, they might have left some time on the board, so I'm going to keep it at that.
Exactly. You planned that one perfectly, just the way it is. So now, did you ever have any, when you decided to stop playing, any issues with, just missing the game so much that you were depressed? You hear a lot of athletes talk about that.
And we, when B-Dot was talking earlier,
yes,
a few days ago, he recanted a lot of the emotions that we go through. I know that I went through. Andy saw it. My girlfriend saw it, and the darkest part of my life ever, man. At one point, bro, I didn't want to go out in public. I was eating cereal out of my car. I had a bed to lay in, bro. I didn't even want to. I just wanted to sit in the car, bro. And there were times, literally just drinking too much, partying too much. Literally was in self-destruction mode, and I didn't want to be here anymore because I didn't know who I was, and I didn't even know what my purpose was, or didn't even know if I even mattered at that point, man. So I remember sitting down with Coach Sweeney, and at this point, I'm not like the most emotional person in life. So I'm literally breaking down in front of him, man, and having damn near a panic attack, can't even breathe. And he stops me. He's like, "What are you? What's going on, man? Like, what are you crying about?" I was like, "Coach, man, like, I don't know, And that was the thing. I really had no, I knew what I felt, but I couldn't explain it, man. Like, it was nothing there. Like, it was literally empty. And Coach Sweeney said, "Look, man," he said, you won't even get it. You won't even know." But he was like, the amount of people that you've been able to impact playing here is special, bro. So he was like, you matter. You matter to a lot of people that you don't even know that you impacted. And obviously, as I've continued to grow and mature, I've been able to see that, man, and have firsthand stories. But yeah, football is tough, man. And we had 6 of us last week go over to the Paul Journey deal, and we talked about that transition because it's important, man, because all these kids have these majors and they got all these different opportunities, but at the same time,
as you broke the mic.
At the same time, that's what you've done, man. So all these people say you're more than an athlete. Well, you don't know that at the time because that's all you've done.
Exactly.
So yeah, he's an intellectual guy, or he can do this and he can do that, and yeah, you can do it, but you don't even know how to because this is all you've done. So all of my energy, man, all of my person, my whole world is tied to that, and there's nobody that's going to change that. At the time, there was no girlfriend. It was nothing that my parents could tell me because, when you put in all that work, you want it to mean something. And if you feel like it doesn't mean anything, then that's when you stop being you completely. So when you see these guys that make all of this money and they still go through situation, and unfortunately it ends the worst, it's because, man, you can't just stop, bro. That's the toughest part about it. For 2 years, I couldn't even watch football.
Couldn't watch it at all.
Couldn't watch it.
Even Clemson games.
Never. I just couldn't watch it. And it was a tough transition, man.
So what was the moment that you got over that?
I never really.
Are you still
it just
going through it
year after year? It gets better and better, But there's times where, I'm in a meeting and the whole conversation is supposed to be about this, but it's geared towards this thing that I did. So although I'm trying to progress and move forward, I'm still living in the past every day. So you're reliving all of these emotions and all of these experiences, and it takes you back to that place, being like, damn,
that's when I was the man.
Right. So, it's been interesting, man, because that's the reason that, I'm so involved in some of these athletes' life, is because everything that they essentially did or are going to do, on the field, what they're going to go through emotionally, I've already been there for them, man. So it's just helping them, guide them that way. But at the same time, when I'm talking to them, I'm really talking to myself, So it's kind of it's an interesting deal there, man. But
well, that's very wise to have that type of perspective. And so what type of words of wisdom would you give those guys?
Man, really just take it a day at a time. For all of us, obviously you got the big goal to go play and, make a lot of money or whatever it is. But sometimes we forget why we play. You play it because you love it. You play it because, that's what you've been doing since you were 7 years old. And so many times we get caught up in everything else but that. Because what happens is the moment you continue to have success, everybody else is now in that journey with you. And whatever you get, they feel like they get, and it's, you feel like you owe them something because, they've been with you every step of the way, but at the same time, you got to go through life realizing that you owe it to yourself, man, to treat yourself right, man. Figuring out what that is, because if you're not healthy all the way around, man, you can't help anybody else, period, man. So it's really just, and talking about it. I mean, all of these guys, they feel like they're in it alone. And literally, majority of the guys who have achieved, and I wouldn't even say you had to do something special. Just the guys that loved it, the moment that it goes, they've been through that same type of emotion. Everybody goes through their deal, and they have their internal demons that they're battling every day. And I still go through them. So, just got to keep it moving.
It's a process.
Keep it striving and just continue to figure out what that purpose looks like. And if you don't know, surround yourself with people who do have that purpose. Because if they do, then maybe you'll catch some of that's rolling off of them,
Yes. Well, you've allowed me to spend some time with you and hearing more about that. And, Tajh, I can't thank you enough for the time here on the podcast.
Man.
I greatly appreciate it.
Appreciate you, Rich. Richmond Weaver, man.
That's it.
Big dog.
Awesome. Tajh, thank you, sir.
Appreciate you, bro.
That is it for our conversation with former Clemson quarterback Tajh Boyd. Thank you for watching.